Okay, welcome back to the video. In the last section, we loaded the vessel up with all the fuel and locks that we would need to hopefully complete the entire flight out to Europa without having any problems and not running out of fuel or anything like that. Now I think from what I learned in the Mars to Saturn flight, I think the best thing to do at this point is going to be to lift off of Phobos, and then I want to go prograde to Mars and maybe push my vessel forward a little bit to make sure that when I do the ejection burn out to Jupiter, I don't run into any potential problem of having Phobos in the way. Because if you recall from the Mars to Saturn video, when I lifted up off of Phobos, I didn't really pay attention to which direction I was going or anything like that. And then when I did the ejection burn out to Saturn, Phobos was just right over there to the side. And if things had been just a little bit different, I could have ruined the mission by running straight into Phobos. So to alleviate that problem, I'm going to set that aside for now. And go ahead and start the APU. Put down the hover doors. Open the hover doors, rather. Turn off external cooling. Actually, it's already off. And before I lift off here, I'm just, going through in my mind. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Anything I still want to do? I think I'm all set. So let's go ahead and apply a little bit of hover. Won't take much.
Wheels up.
You can see here from the external view that we are in fact lifting up.
Gear up.
So raise the landing gear.
Gear up and locked.
Okay, we really don't need a lot of hover, so let's go ahead and turn off the hover engines, because we're already at 13.5 meters per second, so we don't need a lot. I think I can even close the hover doors. And turn off the APU to get rid of the noise. Now I'm going to press AR so that it will automatically reference the strongest source of gravity. And for now I'm going to hit NT because I don't need to target Europa from Mars. That obviously doesn't make any sense. Now I'm going to press HUD to copy this information up to the HUD. And now I want to go prograde to Mars. And there we are. We are now prograde to Mars. Now, one of the reasons I want to do this is because this way I can use just a little bit of translation just to begin pushing the XR5 forward, like so. And this should make sure that when I do the ejection burn, I have Phobos in the rearview mirror. So just a little more translation. I actually wish that Orbiter would simulate collisions. Unfortunately, it does not at this time. So things like what I'm talking about are not really important, because you could in fact go straight through Phobos and it wouldn't cause any problems. But from a realistic point of view, for the sticking with the simulation as much as possible, doing things like this makes sense, makes it more fun in my opinion. So, just pushing myself forward a little bit further, I think that'll be fine. We're now coasting away from Phobos, so we're good. Okay, let's get going here with the transx part of this flight to finish configuring everything that we need to configure. So let's back up here to stage 1, and let's go to view setup and switch our graph projection over to plan. That typically works best, although focus might actually be better here. We'll see. And then we'll come over here to the escape plan, and this is a little different than the way we set this up when we're on Mars. Obviously, when we're actually on Mars, we set our PE distance so that it's 200 kilometers above the surface of the planet. But out here, and this is actually why I think having setup or having graph projection on focus will work better, because here we get a more rounded view, and I think that will work better when I actually extend this out. We'll see here in a second. But here I needed this PE distance to be reflective of my current altitude. So if I set it just to 200 kilometers above the surface of Mars, that would be way down here, and I'm way out here, and according to that burn, my semi-major difference would be off catastrophically. So we're going to raise this way out to somewhere, based on these numbers. So we're going to say we want our PE distance to be something like 2.41. 9.241. Well, but I should say between 9.241 and 9.599, basically out to that point. I think that's right. Let me change the view to plan, see if that works better. Aha, this does work better. Okay. So that's why, this is showing this hypothetical line is out here beyond the orbit that we're at. But when I had it on focus, which gives me a better looking view this way, but it's not as accurate. It doesn't accurately depict where this line is at relative to our orbit. That makes sense? So we're going to go with plan, which is what we usually do anyway. So again, this number will be somewhere between 9.241 and 9.599. Not sure how to get it any more accurate than that, just laying it straight across that point. See, now I'm not happy with this either, because this is showing that the hypothetical line is on top of the orbit, but it's not within the parameters here. Why is that? I don't understand. Let me check the other views. So that's ecliptic. That's focus. Let me try focus again. Maybe I just missed something. That doesn't work. Okay, so don't quite understand that. Oh, I know why. It's... I think I know why the eject orientation is obviously way off, so let's plan on setting that up. I'm learning, bear with me. I'm not doing this video as a tutorial to say this is what you should do. Keep in mind, this is a learn with me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm guessing. I'm learning as I go. But I believe this is what was going wrong there. Okay, so we want the white line to be over our present location, and that will tell me how far out of plane I am with regards to where I need to do the eject orientation. Right now I'm 11 degrees out. Okay, the world is starting to make sense again. So before I worry too much about the PE distance, I first want to get myself in proper plane. So let's do that. I don't really need a line plane, but the reason I'm bringing it up is it can help me determine when I'll be at a node. And it may not matter, but if I happen to be coming up to a node, I think it would be more fuel efficient to do the burn at that time. And I don't know how to tell where the nodes are at, but just by looking at this view. So if I put in the inclination, which is 25.58, and the longitude of the ascending node, which is 107.2, and hit enter, now it tells me that, you know, I'm how far out of plane I am, but it also tells me where the next node is at. And I'm basically at the ascending node right now. So let's go orbit minus. And the only concern I have for doing this burn now is that I'm still awfully close to Phobos. So hopefully this won't send me in an awkward position. Okay, it looks like I'll be burning that way, so I'll still be going away from Phobos here, it looks like. Okay. Now I'm going to bump the white line around because in the time it's taken me to get oriented, we're a little bit off, so let's bump it this way. There we go. Okay, and let's do a burn. Now what I expect to see happen by the time this burn's done, this green ellipse will be in proper tilt. Because the reason that this dashed yellow line was showing itself as being off from my orbital altitude is because it's tilted. But once this is done, I should be able to get the PE distance set to the proper altitude, and this should be right on the edge. So we'll see here in a moment if I'm right. Doing a bit of an adjustment here. Get that white line really close to the current position. Like that, and let's just do a little bit more fine-tuning with this burn. A little bit of an overshoot there, but we'll be okay. Yeah, you can see at the hyper setting, when I press either plus or minus, see how quickly that's spinning around? That is a good indication that you're in basically perfect plane. In fact, you can see it there, the relative inclinations, one of those weird, scientific notations. Alright. Now, let's go back and do the PE distance. Let me double check to make sure that the setup is on plan. It is. And now what I'm expecting to see is when I get the PE distance between 9.246 and 9.7, then this dashed yellow line should be sitting right here at the edge. Let's find out. 9.246. Yeah, really close. 9.246, and here we're at 9.233. So in fact, I'm just going to set this to 9.246. Okay. There we go. Like I said, the world makes sense again. Now I do have one small concern, so let me set that aside for a moment. And let me go prograde back to Mars. I just want to see where Phobos is at. Okay, it's way out there. And prograde for us is that way. Well, that way. So there's no chance of running into Phobos. Very good. Alright, so now we're here, and our ejection point is here. So we're going to have to go all the way around Mars one time to get back over to this ejection point. So we're just going to warp time ahead to get to that point here in just one moment. The only thing I want to think of is if I need to do any further adjustments to my maneuver, because when I set the maneuver up, I was on Phobos and I didn't adjust the date, so that maneuver is obsolete, it's out of date. What am I doing? That's what I'm looking for. There we go. Here's 563336530. So, that was a while ago while I was still on Phobos. So the first thing I'm going to do is reset the date to bring it to right now. And it didn't have any meaningful impact, so that's fine. I didn't expect that it would. But I just wanted to make sure that it was still, that we were more close to the current time. I think what I could actually do see, we're doing the ejection here after we go around one time. I wonder if it would be like most accurate if I set the eject date to right here. I mean, obviously it would be, but how do I know when that's going to be? I guess it's this number. Yeah, must be this number. So let's bump the date forward to 9763. That's when we're saying we're going to do the ejection. Okay, now let's look at the encounter. And you can see by bumping that date forward to when we're actually going to do the ejection burn, it now says that the minimum altitude would be 394. Not really what I want. So let's go back to the eject plan. Now that we know when we're doing the burn, let's go through the variables here and set what we need so that the minimum altitude is closer to 1,000,000 kilometers. Okay. And as I'm doing that adjustment, I can see the inclination going further and further out, so I'm also going to put in plane change. Was I adjusting plane change just now? I was. Okay, so let's basically undo what I just did and bring the inclination way back down. Looks like about there, as that's as low as it's going to get. So back over to prograde, which is what I meant to be adjusting before. And that's taking it that way, so let's go minus. Until we're at about 1,000,000 kilometers. Right around there. And let's see if we can adjust the inclination now by doing a plane change adjustment. That's going the wrong way. Okay, it's looking pretty good right there. My throat is already getting very rough today. I may have to just do this one part and call it a day. Okay. So I'm happy with that. We've got the date set for the ejection point. So we should have a nice accurate information here for that closest approach. Showing here our relative inclination's a bit out, so let's work with that. Bring that white line back around to the current location. And now let's first of all, let's just do a test with the linear translation. Let me go
Rotation.
I can feel how much heavier the vessel is with these rotations. It's taking a lot of rotation just to turn it. But what we'll also do here when we do the ejection burn is I'll open the payload doors, and as I'm burning through fuel modules, I'm just going to jettison the empty ones, just like the rocket when it takes off. And as soon as it's done with the fuel, it just jettisons the solid rocket boosters or whatever. So I'm gonna open the payload doors. Since I'm not in the atmosphere, I can do that. And as I'm doing the ejection burn, because I'm gonna burn through a lot of fuel modules, I'm just gonna toss them out the back as I go.
Translation.
Okay, now I want to see if I can do a bit of up-down translation to bring the relative inclination down without having to go to a node. That's going to be slow. Okay.
Rotation.
It's going to take too long using translation, so I'm going to rotate minus 90 down and use main engine. Oops. Guess I could just use the autopilot. Duh. Okay, now quick adjustment on the white line just to make sure we're good and accurate. And there we are. And burning.
Translation.
Okay. And there we are. Once again, with the eject orientation on the hyper setting, trying to get it right back over our current position is nearly impossible, and that just indicates that we are basically in perfect plane for this ejection burn. And the reason that we got out of plane after doing the first alignment was because after doing the first alignment, I then readjusted the maneuver. Once I adjusted the maneuver, then this was a little bit off. But I feel like it almost had to be done in those two steps because I couldn't find the right ejection point in order to set up the date until I had the ejection point. It's hard to explain. Okay. Finally, we are ready to go around. Go ahead and warp time ahead. And if necessary, once we get maybe over here, we'll do any kind of adjustment if we need to with our relative inclination. Hopefully we won't have to. And this tells us when we're going to begin the burn. It's really nice to see that holding. Something I'm learning, and I just want to point this out, is this type of thing would never hold when you're in orbit low around Mars, Earth, or whatever. So it's interesting to see how much better you are able to stay in plane when you're this much farther out, and we're really not even all that far out. I mean, 10,000 kilometers? It's not exactly, we're still well within the gravitational influence of Mars, obviously. But it's just interesting to me, from a technical point, to note that when you're even just that little bit out, this information becomes more accurate. I guess you're just not getting as much influence, gravitational permutations, things like that. I don't know exactly what model is influencing this, but you would never be able to hold it so well around Mars or Earth if you were closer in. And that's still 0.000. It's a very accurate number. We are now 6,000 seconds away from the burn. Close that time in. And let me go ahead and back off here for a moment. Go prograde, turn on the APU. And I want to open the bay doors And I have no idea where Phobos is at this point. We've gone quite a way around, so we might be... Oh, there it is. I was going to say we might be so far away now that we can't see it. But yeah, we still can. It's right there. Okay. Turn off the APU. Turn off ProGrade. And I'm actually going to press Control S and save just before I get ready to do this burn. That way, in case something goes horribly wrong, I can pick back up right here and keep going without having to do a lot of things over again. Closing the last 1,000 seconds. Something else that just caught my eye is the delta V. It's only 4,300. Seems to me like that's a lot lower than it was the first time I went to Jupiter. I'll have to go back and check. In fact, if I remember, I'll go back and check and I'll put an annotation in the video to say what the previous delta V was. Of course, one big difference though is that we're already in orbit around Mars. I mean, we're well out. We're quite a bit farther out. We're not close in, so that would have at least something to do with having lower delta V this time. But anyway, I'm going to begin the burn in just a few seconds here. I don't know if this will be a good idea or not, but right before I'm getting ready to start this burn, I'm going to do a little bit of up-down translation. And we'll just go with that. Actually, it's not on the current location. Okay, we're already in plane, so that we're good. I just figured it'd make more sense to get as close to perfect plane as I could before starting the burn. Because once you start the burn, then you're applying energy, and every second that goes by, you know, you're pushing yourself farther up or down. At least it seems that way. Couple minutes away, but we're at 10x, so it won't take long. Let's go ProGrade. Okay, and just before starting the burn, we'll turn ProGrade off. Seems to me that it works better when you do that. ProGrade off, starting the burn, and burning. And we'll keep an eye on our semi-major difference throughout the course of the burn to make sure that it's always going down. And actually, we're going to have to do a rotation already. And do we need to go in or out? Okay, looks like in is helping. Okay, there you see now it's coming back. So we'll go with that for now. Okay, we've got a bit to burn through. We're emptying these fuel modules, so let's jettison the spent ones. Actually, I'm going to wait until after the burn is done because I don't want to lose focus on, what's going on here. This is more important than lightening the vessel by a few kilograms. Well, several thousand, but nevertheless, this is more important. So I'll empty them right after the burn is over. Jettison them right after the burn is over. You can see our relative inclination is holding perfectly for now. Still got quite a bit of delta V to burn through. So far so good. I'm liking the way this is turning out. Not only am I liking the way this is turning out, but I'm actually just liking this overall process better. That being going out to like Phobos first. It seems like for whatever reason I'm just having cleaner burns as a result of coming out to Phobos first. And the overall process just seems better. Unfortunately, Earth doesn't have a Phobos. I'm tempted to rotate, but this is coming down pretty quickly, and we still got quite a bit of delta V to burn through, so I don't think I should rotate yet. In fact, I think we've got time to go ahead and toss out some of these modules, some of the spent payload, and it'll look kind of cool. So what do we have here? We need to go to 1. And again, these that are saying they're 4,000 are already done. So we'll deploy that.
Payload deployed.
And we'll deploy that one.
Payload deployed.
And that one.
Payload deployed. Payload deployed. Payload deployed. Payload deployed. Payload deployed.
Now if we look outside, you can see those modules back there. They're going to be in some sort of solar orbit. Although when I was deploying them, I was noticing that they were coming through the vessel, so it's probably not very realistic. I guess you should wait till the burn is done, deploy them, and then translate down so they float away. Alright, let's pay attention to what's going on with the burn. Semi-major difference. Still got 2,200 to burn through. And we definitely want to rotate now. That's making it go up. We don't want that. So I'm rotating back in a little bit. Looks like that's the wrong way, though. There we go. Now we're counting down. With regards to deploying those spent modules, that's another area where it would be cool if Orbiter simulated collision. Although in this particular instance it may have been a bad thing because I would have collided the modules with the vessel, but if Orbiter did simulate collisions, then obviously I would know that and I wouldn't have done it. But it would just be cool if it did, because then you could take damage to the vessel, things like that. Go ahead and rotate a little bit more outward to get the semi-major difference counting down more quickly. We are getting somewhat close to the end of the burn. At least we're well over halfway. think I could use a little bit more outward rotation. I just don't want to overdo it because then I'll overshoot and the number will go way up in the other direction. (1,000 meters per second left in our orbital velocity change. We're at 5,500 meters per second, and I guess we'll be at about 6,500 meters when this is all said and done. Of course, as soon as we turn off the engines, the pole of Mars immediately takes hold and starts slowing us down. Rotating just a little bit inward because we're getting very low on the semi-major difference, so that number is going to start counting down very quickly. In fact, I went too much. It's now counting up. It's not what we want. Okay, we'll just hold it right there for now, because we've only got 600 meters per second left of delta V. And okay, I think I'm just going to hold it right there. Almost at the end of the burn. Backing off the main engines.
Translation.
Okay.
Rotation.
That all went really well.
Translation.
You can see that semi-major difference, it's not even a real number. So that's as slow as that's going to get. Now let's bump our white line over here, although you can see it's hypersensitivity, and I can't even get it over top of our current location, so that means I cannot bring the relative inclination down any lower. So that is as good as it gets. I love these high orbit ejection burns. They're just much more accurate, at least with transects. Let's close, let's just set that aside, and let's go back up top. Let's get rid of some more fuel modules. Okay. And again, what I'm looking at is over here, the payload area shows me the mass is 4,000 kilograms. That's empty. So
Payload deployed.
I would prefer if it didn't reset over every time.
Payload deployed. Payload deployed. Payload deployed. Payload deployed. Payload deployed. Payload deployed.
That one's got fuel in it. And the rest of these have fuel. Okay, so that will lighten up the vessel a little bit. And what I'll do now
Rotation. Translation.
is translate just a little bit down. Not much at all, because I don't want to mess with my relative inclination. But just enough so that these modules will separate away from the vessel. Don't have to worry about them crashing back down into the vessel. And I should have waited until the burn was done to get rid of all of them, because I can see this is a better way to do it, because they're floating up. Well, they appear to be floating up, but what's really happening is our vessel is kind of going down a little bit. But when I was separating them while the burn was happening, they were leaving they were being detached from inside the cargo bay, and then they were immediately going back this way, and that's unrealistic, because they would, that would be a catastrophic failure in real life. Okay. Let's just take a look at how things are, and then we will call this a section, and we'll be done. Let's go forward. Let's take a look at our encounter. We're saying that our encounter is going to be 1 million kilometers, which is what we want. You know what I think I might do also in this video is I'm going to end this video here, and then what my next section, I'm actually going to go ahead and record the whole ride out to Jupiter, and I'm telling you that now so that the people that don't want to watch that can skip that next video. And if there's some crazy people that actually want to watch that, then you can go ahead and tune into the next video. Otherwise, I'm not going to make any changes or anything like that during that video. It'll just be time warp. But for people that are so fascinated by Orbiter that they actually would find that part interesting also, I'm going to go ahead and record it, so you won't miss anything at all. But for the people that don't want to watch the time warp, you can just skip ahead to the following video after that one. So that's going to be it. If you have any questions about this section, if you're curious about anything I did, why I did it, when I did it, or if you have a comment, or if you have some advice, you could have done this better, could have done that better, that didn't make sense, this was stupid, whatever, leave all those comments, remarks down below. And of course, if you like the video, leave a comment down below and let me know you liked it. And otherwise, we'll see you in the next section.